Jim, you asked if people are ready for the big sit down. We 100% are. I don't think we were 4 years ago. Talk about warp speed, Project Warp Speed. Like we are now ready.
Mike.
Dude.
Good to see you.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. We're in the bunker today.
We are in the bunker today. Where's my damn glasses? Hold on. I got to wear glasses for a bunker. There's a lot of bunker stuff to go. Dude, how exciting the freaking Eclipse video is going nutso. It's going nutso.
That thing is, it's just skyrocketing.
And we're in the millions.
Yeah,
I did the night before the Eclipse. No, 2 nights before. It was a Saturday at the Paramount, and then the Eclipse was Monday. And even the Eclipse has a lot of things to do with what we're gonna bunker down with today.
Dude, 6.5 million views on that.
That's crazy.
That's insanity.
See, wow. I think a lot of people find it funny, but they also find it like, this is kind of a mockery of all this. I'm excited about today. I always love doing the bunker. I love doing the bunker because then we're allowed to go so far and wide. And we're going to hit a subject today. First, let me say hello to my, I got a great guest today. And I want all you, listen, with all conversations, you have to open your mind. You can't you can't hold on to a tree and say, this is the way things are. And I think I showed you guys an example where it's so simple to manipulate one another. And it just, the minute you get over the fact that people do that, your mind will expand. It may spook you out. Let it spook you out. What are you afraid of? Go far and wide with your thoughts. There's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to go into territory today where I'll just say this. Years ago, I wouldn't even listen to this. I used to do this podcast called The Metal in Me. I think it may still be up somewhere. It was more comical, and we did a lot of heavy metal. We try to write The Odd Couple with the lead singer of Judas Priest living with Ozzy Osbourne. It was kind of funny. Ozzy's like, I'm pretty sure I want a milk today. I don't see the milk. And Half would be like, do you like frozen bananas? I have frozen bananas in the freezer. It was so stupid. We just laugh at it. So anyway, when we were doing that, the guitar guy, one of the guys on there, a guy named Mike Ticci, look him up on Instagram, and incredible musician in person. He's like, hey man, I got a friend, and he brought this subject up. And I was just like, dude, I can't take you seriously. I'm not even going to listen to you. This is a stupid conversation. And it's just amazing how not only is it not a stupid conversation, but it's a very important conversation, what we're going to have today. And I want to remind you of this. I showed you an example of a professor, because we trust professors. Anyone with a label, we must trust. Fully at 100%. They are trustworthy. They are our idol. And he had a blue circle, right next to it, an orange circle. And he goes, one of these circles are bigger than the other. And I'm telling you, I feel like I'm wide awake and I'm with it and common sense. And I'm staring at these two circles going, is he crazy? That was my first reaction. Is he crazy? There is no way one of these circles are larger than the other. This guy's crazy. And he goes, look at it real hard. I know a lot of you think it may immediately look like they're the same, and that's what your instinct tells you. But I'm telling you, one of them is larger. Now we're going to have a vote. How many people think the blue circle is larger? And all my life, I'm sitting there looking, going, this guy. And then I went from, you know what? The blue one is, I guess the blue one is a little. I didn't see it before, but yeah, I could see the blue one's a little bigger. And the classroom raised their hand, like maybe 3/4 of the room. And he goes, which one thinks the other circle's larger? And then the rest of them, he goes, all of you voted on which one was larger. Well, guess what? They're the same size. Exactly what your instinct told you. And that's how easy it is to manipulate a society. It's that easy. You just don't believe it. So let's put our glasses on and get ready. You need to just listen. Just listen. I don't care what your ideologies or what you were taught in school. Just sit down, relax, and let's have these conversations. He absolutely crushes all over Long Island. And he's been one of my greatest friends since, I think, high school we started. And just crushed at the Paramount. Always does. We got to get this tour going. Jimmy Shaka's with us in the bunker.
Thank you, bro. What's going on?
I'm excited about today. I don't know if you want to start with some stuff, but I have a guest, and I really, really can't wait to get in his subject.
I forgot my glasses, but I do have my tinfoil hat.
Did you get Did you get anything going with? I saw all these different things online about the eclipse and all that jazz, and I did the bit that night, which is going crazy right now, but. On a deeper note, like I saw videos, Jimbo, where a guy was, I guess he was looking through the glasses, and through the glasses you see the eclipse, and he's going, and it's all over the internet, and he goes, so if the moon is casting the shadow, and then he'd cut to the sky where the moon was, and you're like,
I saw that.
Why is the moon right there? And well, then what's covering? What is that? What is going on? So if NASA is wrong, then why do we believe anything anymore? Which is where we're gonna go. I mean, you saw that, right?
I saw that, and that's interesting. First thing I thought of was there are these patents that you could look up where they have like a fake sun is one of the patents. Okay. A method of blocking the sun is another patent.
Bill Gates wants to block the sun. It's not
exactly.
A secret. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact.
Right.
It's not here. I can take my glasses off for that. Bill Gates wants to cover the sun. He wants to make it where we can black out the sun so we can all be saved. Look it up. It's not a conspiracy. That is a fact. You don't think whack jobs? This is Avengers. You're living in the Avengers here. Hello. Hi. Yeah, I know you're all excited about the ball game this week, but there's some whack jobs running the show right now, and they've been for a while.
Yeah.
For a long while. Anyway.
So, but the one thing I wanted to that I thought about with the eclipse was I feel like here it was a moment where they did it again. The fear it's always the same thing. Use fear. Be afraid.
The National Guard is being called out in Wyoming for the eclipse. And
think about this. Think about this. That here is this one moment where the whole world is going, wow, like all these positive vibes, like, oh my God, that's so awesome. There's all these positive vibes going out to the universe from planet Earth. So what do? It's the apocalypse. It's biblical.
Right.
It's
biblical.
wait, mass transit, right?
That was Long Island. Please use mass transit during the eclipse. For what? I got to take a bus because an eclipse it because it's going to be a shadow for 2 hours?
Bro.
The what? Who signs this off? Why can't these people be accountable?
This is what an eclipse is. This is what an eclipse is. That's it. That's it.
Use mass transit. Be very careful. This is
right.
biblical.
Have enough food and water for a month. Right.
If I see one more thing online saying the EBS is about to go off, make sure you have food in United States of America. It's going. Stop.
And I fell for it too. Like I you know what? I didn't think anything naturally was going to happen because an eclipse is, like I said, that's all it is. It's just the sun. It's a shadow. It happens 5 times a year all over the world. But I did think, some of these knuckleheads were going to pull some shenanigans and blame it on there's a high possibility of that. That's just being logical.
What are we looking at, Mike?
This is from the governor of Ohio, who put out a ready statement before the eclipse. The Ohio EMA urges those traveling to see the eclipse to make preparedness kit for their vehicle and include items like snacks, drinks, cash, cell phone chargers, and blankets. Motorists should top off their fuel tank or fully charge their electric vehicle before heading out. So they were prepping people for nothing.
Be afraid, be very afraid, So in a way, I feel like it kind of cured me of buying the fear porn, There's, like my daughter, ever since she was little, I said, there's nothing to be afraid of ever. Be smart, be aware, but you don't have to be afraid. Don't be afraid, So
with that said, I want you to understand, as you're listening, as you're watching, I know it's a little hard to think that things aren't what they seem, but they're really not. And the minute you start exploring, so I want to bring on Mark Sargent to join us today in the bunker. What's up, Mark? Sorry, I caught you while you were
no, it's done.
Some coffee. How are you, bro?
I'm good, and thank you so much for having me on the bunker. I'm very excited. This is great.
No, I love it. This is a subject where I won't get into it yet. I won't get into it yet, but the amount of people that try to poo-poo this is mind-boggling. And I was 100. I want everyone to know I was 100%. This is stupid. This is the dumbest thing I ever heard. What's wrong with these human beings? And now it makes all the sense in the world. And I have no problem saying that. I want the world to know, yes, Jim Bruer is open for the flat earth world. And it makes way more sense than a spinning ball. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I think climate change that hasn't happened every 10 years are scaring you and the world's going to change. Plymouth Rock is still where it's at. There's so many things here that you've been lied about and fibbed about, and you learned and you took tests about it. That was BS. So, with that said, is that how I label you?
By the way, you're going to catch so much hell for saying that, by the way.
I don't care.
I know.
I don't care. I want you to prove to me. This is what I tell people. Yeah. So where do you get information? Well, the scientists have proved that they lie. Who's getting another shot?
That's right.
It's true.
Who didn't take ivermectin because it didn't work? They lied. So I don't want to hear you learn from a scientist
Right.
or school.
Right.
Because it has proved none of that it's all nonsense. All right, sorry, I'm going.
No,
really
no,
off
no,
on
it's
it.
okay. And
But-
to your point, I do a section on a podcast every Tuesday called, and I've been doing it now for 2 years, called Lucky Unlucky.
Yeah.
Where I say, okay, if you're lucky, you caught, some sort of weird side effect that reads like a book of witches spells. And if you're unlucky, you catch suddenly, unexpectedly, short illness, brief illness, blah, 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 and then you're done. So yeah, absolutely. I'm totally with you there.
So before we get into this, if you don't mind, Mark and Jim, I saw something. Now, this guy's a flat earther. And that is definitely a name that people like to throw around.
Right.
And it's like, it's an insult. It's just another insult and a way to poo-poo people.
Sure.
I saw this video, and this is something that everyone listening and watching, you can go test it out. So here's a guy explaining to you why we believe what we believe and why the Earth most likely is flat.
Right.
This guy brings up a totally different situation. He says,
to make us feel that way. Rothschild. Yeah, who prints those books? Do you know who prints those
so
books?
he goes on to say, Ghislaine Maxwell's father
Prints our books.
prints our books. No, wait.
No, it means that they're lying to you about what's in those books.
But he starts going on to
It can be true and all, but that doesn't mean
saying cities across our whole country.
You can't send that to Mike to play.
No, and you know what? And it's the wrong. So in this, he said, here it is. This is the one I wanted.
North America was destroyed by fire between 1850.
Did you hear what he said? He said,
Every major city in North America was destroyed by fire between 1850 and the early 1900s. Every city in America was torched. So we don't really know what was here anymore. They left a few museums or whatever you want to call them. Look at the great, look, whoever's watching, look at your big city, wherever you are, Atlanta, New York, Chicago, doesn't matter where. Type in the Great Fire of, and then type in your city. You're going to see that at some point between 1850 and 1930, your city was completely devoured. That was in this country.
Mhm.
Yeah.
bro,
True.
I immediately, and just like all of you are going to immediately go, I looked up Milwaukee, the Great Fire of and completely almost entirely wiped out. St. Louis. I started doing Kalamazoo. I went in a hole for 40 minutes looking up obscure cities. Why do we not know this?
Yeah.
How
Bro.
do we not know this?
Yeah. Now, here's another one you could look up is the World's Fairs, right?
Yeah. Yes.
The World's Fairs. If you look up, Chicago World's Fair, whatever, all these World's Fairs that were like in the 1800s, seems around the 1800s, some went down. They had these colossal buildings that they said, well, we just built this for the World's Fair. Really? You built like, it looks like Rome. It looks like,
right.
these incredible Greek structures or like these buildings that are, so much more beautiful than the structures they build today. And they say, oh, we just built it for the World's Fair. And then we're tearing it down afterwards. So just like the fires, they destroyed.
Yeah.
They destroyed something.
Yep.
So
Here you
to
go. The Great Fire of Jacksonville. At least 90% of Jacksonville burned to the ground. 2,368 buildings along 146 blocks were destroyed. That was in 1901.
Bro, how do we not know? How do we never heard? And
Right.
here's my bigger question. How'd this guy find out? He goes on government and he's, they label him as a flat earther. When I came off of JFK, I just came back from a flight and I landed, for the Paramount. And when I landed at JFK, they have a flat earth
Symbol.
map.
Symbol. Yeah.
No, a huge map. As you come out of the exit and you're going down the spiral staircase, you have to look at it.
Yeah.
And it's an ice wall around the perimeters, and it's a flat Earth. And it's also in New York City. I think it's in Grand Central Station.
Dallas.
I don't know, it's in one of those
It's in
stations.
Dallas too.
Yes. It's in a lot of places. So
Isn't that
what-
also the new
what is that?
what is it? United Nations
Yeah, it is.
symbol. It's
Yeah,
something-
it's the UN flag, and it's also it's officially called the azimuthal equidistant map. But yeah, it's all the same thing. And that's so the UN can use it as their flag, and it's totally legit. But if we say, "Oh no, it's what the map we use in our community," and they'll go, "No, you're crazy." It's like, really? It's the same map. And by the way, the UN flag, real quick, there's a continent that's missing on the UN flag, and which is Antarctica. An entire continent is not on the UN flag, and instead is replaced by these giant spiky Greco-Roman wreaths on the outside. It's like, wow, that's kind of interesting.
Right.
I mean, Antarctica is at least as big as Australia, at the bare minimum, if you believe what science tells you, but it's not there.
Although I have to say, I don't trust the UN, anything about it. They want to be, they want the United States to be under their control. No, thank you.
Right.
We
know that.
So,
But what do you think, Mark?
Yeah.
When did you let me put on my glasses. Because I don't like the bags under my eyes. They really bother me. So that gave me an excuse to be like, hey, we're going bunker, put on the glasses. When did you start diving into this?
2014, after I had run out of every other conspiracy I could think of. That was when I started. Because I never got married. And if you're a tech guy, if you're into tech, you are on the internet a lot. And you go down a lot of different rabbit holes. And I'd run out of rabbit holes. And finally, it's like, okay, I'm not getting any younger. Let's look at this flat Earth piece of crap. Right? I hated flat Earth. Absolutely hated it. Everybody that gets into
so did I.
Yeah, I know one of my friends, David Weiss from DITRH. He used to ban people that would bring it up in chat forever, like lifetime bans. He'd be like, banned. You bring up flat Earth, banned. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, I can shoot this thing down in a weekend. And that weekend turned into a month, which turned into 9 months. And then finally, at the beginning of 2015, I just asked the internet for help. I made a series of videos called Flat Earth Clues. And I said, okay, I can't prove the globe in a court of law anymore. I didn't even like saying the word flat Earth. And I put it out there with all my contact information, which is a smart thing to do. Put all your contact information on every video you make. And waited for the shoe to drop. And it never did. But I had people immediately start contacting me, military people, saying, okay, it's not that nuts. Here's why. It's like, what?
What? No, all right. When you say like a military person,
yeah.
Like who's reaching
Oh,
out?
good Lord.
Like someone you know?
No,
like
complete strangers were contacting me. The first guy was a guy named Sean McCrary. He was a Sparrow missile system instructor for the United States Navy. He was the very first guy. And he goes, I want to go public with this. I want to talk about this. He goes, we do not account for curvature over the spin of the Earth in any of our firing solutions for missiles. And I go, you really want to go public for this? He goes, yep, I do. And I think I mentioned to you briefly when we were talking last week or a couple days ago, where I said when we did that podcast with him, the DOD was pinging our server nonstop. Not because of flat Earth, but because he was a missile system instructor. And they're like, oh, please, God, don't let him tell us how to compromise the missile system. And then a sub guy contacted me, a retired master gunner, tank commander, howitzers, just about all branches of the service. And then air traffic controllers, pilots, everybody except aerospace contacted me. And they all kept adding the same thing. It's like, yeah, it's not nuts. Look into this, little mini deep throat things. So
because I'm like I said, the more I look into it, and the water thing really hit me.
Water lays flat.
Meaning, water always lays flat, and water, no matter what, if you turn it, whatever, it always looks for a flat. It flattens its surface. So. If we're on a ball, how's the water just not going?
Right.
either fall off or whatever, and then people say, "Well, gravity."
Right.
I love when people say that,
and
they know what they're talking about.
And for your listeners,
Yeah.
another thing which I just thought of, which is, look, find me curved ice anywhere. When water lays perfectly flat and it freezes, it's absolutely tabletop flat, hence ice skating, right? No, there is no curved ice anywhere. I mean, yeah, you can make,
Right.
you can,
There's no like today at the roller rink, we'll be at the ice ball. Maybe you can do a couple circles around the ball.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as ice forming in a circle.
Yeah.
It forms flat unless you purposely make it like in a tray or something.
Yeah, but have you ever seen these videos like where they say they're out in space and they'll have a drop of water, right?
Right.
And they'll float it by. Like in the absence of gravity, a blob of water does become a circle.
Right. But that's water tension, and you can only use that for a certain size of water, and then it starts getting all wobbly. It's really, really tough to hold into a sphere. By the way, our community doesn't even use circle; we use a ball or sphere or globe. But yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, little thing I learned years ago, which was when they make buckshot for shotguns, you know how they do it? They drop it. They drop lead from a certain height, and on its way down, with the tension, it forms into tiny little balls on the way down, and then it cools.
It drops in the water or something.
No, it just it cools literally on the way down. By the time it hits the bottom, it's cooled. Anyway, but to your point, as far as the videos they used to do, now it's a combination of CGI. But before CGI, they used to do something on parabolic flights. You know what those are? Like, it's called the vomit comet.
No.
Okay, so you could.
Yes.
Yeah, so you take a plane,
Jimmy knows.
you empty out a plane, and you put people, you can pay money to do this even now if you want. It's called simulated anti-gravity. And you get to plane and you basically nose down at a certain angle in the plane, and you're basically,
so you
you're skydiving without wind is what you're doing, because you're basically, you're in a plane that's falling at free fall speed. And you can record in there. I mean, you can watch what water happens in that. And it's like, okay, water falling inside this airplane. When they got to the CGI stages, that's when everything changed. Then they didn't have to use the parabolic flight so much to fake it. So, but always interesting that the ISS is almost exactly as wide as the inside of an airplane, filled with material. And there's always this noise. There's so much wrong with the ISS. I could spend forever on it. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sure you got questions.
What, Jimbo? What were you
I was going to say ISS, International Space Station, NASA.
NASA's a joke.
Has been debunked. NASA's been debunked for many, many years. And if people haven't seen that, you can find too much information.
That's how
the fake microphone handoff. Have you seen the green screen?
Thank you.
The cables.
Yes.
Let me just move this guy's cable here. The gel in the hair with the girls. Right?
It is from a stagecraft standpoint, it is atrocious. I mean, I am stunned. I look at it, it's like, who is producing this? It is the worst. When the women came out with their hair doing the Bride of Frankenstein thing, when they permed the hair straight up. Yeah. And I'm going, that is the last thing you would ever do, right? Normally, because it's like, okay, all you have to do is put a hat on them, tie their hair back, whatever. It's like, oh, no. We want to try to simulate anti-gravity and the general public will believe it. It's like, why would they believe it? I mean, you could bounce a quarter off that hair. It was awful. But
it's like they jumped the shark.
Absolutely. But it even bypasses the one part about that was clever, which was it completely blew past the whole point, which is nobody should have hair in an ISS at all because of the air filtration system. Nobody should have hair. They should absolutely be shaved. I mean, eyebrows, the whole 9 yards. It should be like a swimming pool, at a public pool where women had to wear hairnets back in the day. I think they still do.
Yeah.
And that's what, because, you have an 8-inch strand of hair that breaks off and starts floating through. That would be disgusting. It would be absolutely, and it would clog up the system in 2 seconds. And so it's like, why do these women have long hair? And then it was like, wait a minute, why does anybody have hair? They wouldn't, absolutely wouldn't. And the wires. Thank you, by the way, for bringing up that the microphone the hat handoff that never happened. It was like, that was the most egregious thing ever. You ever seen somebody grab something that wasn't there and put nothing away on the shelf? And I show that to, normies, space lovers, and they're like, oh well, so, they short circuit.
They don't. Well, this is where we're at, Mark.
Yeah.
It's like when you show people that, like, I can show people and they'll go, it's on the internet, or I'll go, whether it's the actual footage.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
what do you,
Yeah,
how do you not, but they can't wrap their heads around. They just can't, or they don't want to. It's weird.
I've had
real quick. There's a movie coming out soon on Netflix called "Fly Me to the Moon."
Scarlett Johansson.
And the premise is during the 1960s space race between the United States and the Soviet Union, a relationship develops between the NASA director in charge of an Apollo 11 launch and the marketing specialist brought in to fix NASA's public image and stage a backup fake moon landing.
Wow.
The movie's about. Yeah.
That is.
So are they starting to put out? Is this the beginning of, or is this more propaganda?
I think it's
to spear up.
I think it's a little bit of muddying the waters, because that movie that Mike just mentioned. Hi, Mike, by the way. The it is the remake of a British film that touched on the same subject from a few years ago. This one's, of course, a little higher octane with Scarlett Johansson. I think Channing Tatum's in it. And the premise is...
Correct.
Yeah. The premise is that you create a backup film reel for the moon missions in case they die in real life. So the moon missions actually happen, but in case they tank and crater it on the moon, you can run this and no one will know the difference, right? Which begs the question. It's like, what then? Why would you ever try to do it in the first place? Why would you ever try to do it for real? Right. And by the way, that was another thing. One of the reasons why our community just kept growing and growing and growing was because the moon missions aged so horribly. Apollo, even back in the day, after they cut it off in 1972, the last Apollo mission, there were guys, this was way before the internet. There were people, who could you tell, right? So you had to go to like UFO conventions with like a table at a booth,
right?
With, it'd be like, look, these things don't, and it was the super nerds. It was the science guys that were out there. Let's like, look, this doesn't match up and this doesn't make sense, but no one was listening to them. So that when we finally came out, we had a whole bunch of anti-Apollo people that were like, okay, yeah, now I can get on this train. So
well, then there was Stanley Kubrick was supposed to be involved in the landing.
Oh,
right? Have you heard that?
He absolutely was involved. Real quick trivia for you. Kubrick was
Go ahead.
Kubrick was approached in the early 60s. NASA was founded in 1958, and Kubrick was approached in 1959, 58. He was approached in, I think, like 63, and there was a number of directors, and they approached him because he had already done Dr. Strangelove, and they did it without he did it without the government's permission. He had went to him and said, "Hey, can I get inside like a B-52, look around, take some photos, because I want to do a movie that's got a base." They're like, "Hell no, you can't go in that thing," and he did it anyway. And they were going, "Wow, what if we gave him a budget? What could he do with this?" And they, the story, and you probably already know this, Jimmy, which is he was sworn to secrecy, of course, but then he made his big
2001.
Well, he did of course. It's 5 years. He did, okay, what can you fake on film? So he made 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is absolutely gorgeous to this day. You play that thing on Blu-ray, it is freaking flawless. They release it in,
and if you
go ahead.
I was going to say, if you look at it, it's almost like the model for what they did with space, because that was before we allegedly went to space, right?
Yeah,
it was before we went to space, and he's doing these planets that the cinematography of it was just breathtaking. Really is. You got to watch that movie.
And
again.
he releases.
Maybe
go ahead.
He
releases it in 68. Apollo 11, the Eagle has landed. It was in 1969, and subconsciously it filled in the gaps for a lot of people. But it turned out to be a nightmare because he ended up taking the movie. He did not make a lot of movies. He made The Shining in 1980, and then encoded his confession into The Shining, into the movie The Shining.
Yes.
And then
Explain that.
Oh,
Explain
my God.
that for anyone. First of all, it's one of my favorite movies. Explain what you're talking
Okay.
about, because I try to explain and I can't find it again.
Oh,
So
it's easy. You could. I'll show you.
and for anyone questioning, I want to ask you this, for all the listeners, anyone watching.
Yeah.
If you're going, well, it's a movie and Bob, it's because he was a movie, then I'm going to ask you to watch two other movies. Watch Argo, okay?
good.
And watch Wag the Dog. We'll start you off real simple.
Yeah.
Wag the Dog. I insist that you watch Wag the Dog, where basically, and you could say it's a movie and you can believe it's a movie. It's way more than that. But it basically shows you how government knows how to create the greatest film. They can create any story, any film, and it could be a front for something that you had, which is a billion times bigger than the beautiful shiny stars you're staring at. We have Wag the Dog. We create war.
Right.
We create murder. Let's get some of our children and we'll wind them up in the name of patriotism and nationalism, and we'll get a director to make it look like these people are suffering, and we need to save them in the name of freedom. So send our children to get slaughtered so some of these people can make some cash and do a land grab. Now, I'm just saying it's a movie. It's a movie. And then when you get past that, go by Argo, which is something that I remember living through. So with that said,
then go look at the Miami Mall aliens.
Yeah. Then look at that. Yeah. And by the way, there were in Wag the Dog, there were no plot holes. It was absolutely believable. Absolutely. How they laid out, how you build a war from a Hollywood standpoint was brilliant.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's brilliant.
And even at the haunting ending where Dustin Hoffman is like, it's like, hey, can I turn this into an actual movie, a fictional movie? And De Niro, the CIA guy's like, no, you can't. And you could tell that Hoffman was going to go through and the CIA were going to whack him. And it's like, that's how it would have gone down, because it's like you can't say no.
It's really,
So
you can't say, you don't have a choice. So
The Shining,
One Flew of the Cuckoo's Nest is, I'm sorry, The Shining is giving you clues. He confessed during certain areas. Go ahead.
So The Shining, which was a Stephen King book, and that's a wonderful floor pattern. By the way, hold on that shot if you can, because that's a great shot. The Shining, which was a Stephen King book, which was eventually taken over by Stanley Kubrick. He wrote the screenplay for it. And what he did was, in that movie, because he couldn't say anything, right, about his involvement with the Apollo program,
he was going to get whacked.
Yeah, he was going to get whacked. In fact, the black guy, and I can't remember the actor's name in the movie, who got hit in the chest with the axe, that was to symbolize the one friend that he told and that got clipped. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly who that was. Which was, and the whole Room 237. Okay, so we did not know. Kubrick died in 1999, and the Blu-ray for The Shining came out some years later, like only a few years later, and there were people, nerds, super nerds, that were going through it frame by frame. And there was a guy that figured out the whole thing out. He's like, oh yeah, he goes, and he called it Room 237. That's the name of the documentary. You can look it up. Real easy to find out there. I mean, you can find it on Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon and stuff like that.
I saw that.
So Room 237, brilliant, it was also known as the Moon Room, which was, the room number on the key was an anagram for Moon Room. And the premise was nothing in that room is real. It's all fake. It's all an illusion, which was interesting for a moon room. And it started out as a dream, the gorgeous girl in the bathtub that turned into like this zombie, turned into a nightmare, which was the project that Stanley Kubrick signed on for. I mean, come on. There isn't a director alive. It's like, hey, unlimited budget. You have 5 years to make the film. And he's like, yeah. I mean, he spent money on this thing. And what he did was he built little things into it to show people. I'm sorry, the 2001: Space Odyssey. But in The Shining, he built little things. So like his sweater, for example. And I can't remember does that say which Apollo is that?
says 11.
Okay, perfect. So Apollo 11, which was interesting because this show was shot in real time, supposedly around 1980, right? But the kid was only a certain age.
Right.
When exactly did she make the sweater for him, right? Because the sweater predates the child. So and he wears it perfectly in this certain age. Not to mention, you know, the patterns on the floor are a complete mock-up of the NASA launch pads. The patterns on the floors they use everywhere. If you get a chance, watch it. It is an absolute. I don't want to break it down entirely because it takes too long. I mean, there's a whole documentary on this, but it is but you got to focus. The reason why they call Room 237, 237,000 miles to the moon. That's roughly, and I know people say it's an elliptical orbit, and sometimes it's 237, sometimes it's not. But the general accepted distance is 237,000 miles to the moon. It's like, oh, okay. And that hotel didn't have a 237 when they were shooting. They had to make it all up to do it. But it is a fantastic confession of Stanley Kubrick. And now he backed out as far as the television aspect of it. So he did everything he could to try to research what could be faked on film. But when they finally got down to the Apollo 11 thing, and you guys know this, you're in entertainment, they did something absolutely unheard of, which was they said, okay, the networks were like, okay, give us the feed so we can run this on our networks. And they said, no, sorry, you don't get the feed. It's like, what do you mean? No, you have to come down to NASA. We're going to put it on a big screen, and you're going to film it second generation. You're going to have to film our projection.
You get that?
And
you get that, Jim?
No.
It'd be like
you couldn't actually, when the greatest moment in history, we are landing on the moon.
Right.
You would think, number one, it would be in color, right? We did have color film,
right. Which,
number one.
It's so
right.
Stupid. We're calling the moon. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So then they said, if you want to see this historic moment, the greatest moment in humanity's history,
right.
You can't get the actual video feed. The news people, you can't get the actual video feed. You have to come here and just put your cameras on our
television
screen.
Yeah.
Like a bootleg movie that, you know, when you go into a movie theater.
Perfect. That's a perfect example. It's a bootleg movie of the moon. Yeah. And
we're not, you can't see Metallica live.
Right.
Unless you come in this room and we got the special live event.
You can see them on this TV. You can videotape them on this TV. You can't actually go to the concert.
And it was so great.
Now, how many people know that? How many people? I don't know that.
Not many.
Know that?
They just assumed that it was, it's a transmission from the moon, so of course it's going to be crappy. And it upset the producers so much that it inspired a movie. There was a CBS affiliate, who was watching the transmission. He's going, this is absolute crap, right? He goes, I could make a better moon movie than this. In fact, I could make a better Mars movie than this. And that's what was literally the inspiration for Capricorn 1 with O.J. Simpson, by the way, who just died. Who just passed. Yeah. But that was one of his first serious roles, right out of football was this. And so Capricorn was made, and Capricorn 1 was made, which was how the government faked a Mars mission, which again was brilliant. It was independent film. You could never get it made today, never in a million years. And the premise was that there was something wrong with the life support system, and they had to pull the astronauts, again, similar to the Scarlett Johansson movie that's coming out. They had to pull the astronauts and look, we're going to film this because you would have never made it to Mars and back. You were going to die. So we're going to film it. We're going to pass it off as real, and everything will be fine. All you have to do is go along with the script. And the whole premise of the movie was these astronauts, which have been absolute bunch of crap, because they're all Air Force officers. They didn't go along. They had a crisis of conscience. It's like, no, we can't lie to the American people. We should make a break for it. And then it's this big chase thing. The second half of the movie is the government chasing the astronauts and killing them one by one. And that was Capricorn 1. So go ahead.
Here's what everyone's big question is, which I question too. What are they hiding? Because if people don't know, you're not allowed in Antarctica. Why is that? That makes no sense. Why is that the only place in the entire world where every country has a bit, and there's no issues there.
Right.
So that's a lot of people don't. And also in the encyclopedia, it talked about the firmament and flat Earth.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, then why did the globe come out after this big Antarctica treaty?
No.
Do you know?
No, so you can look in, I mean, you could go into Google and type in ancient cosmology and click on images, and you'll see just a wall of the same thing. Every freaking culture, and I don't care what the nerds say about the Greeks, screw the Greeks, everybody drew the same thing, which was some sort of snow globe. Because that's what it looked like, right? You know, stars curve over the sky, and so everybody drew basically a snow globe. Sometime about 500 years ago, yeah, he's probably going to pull that up. Yeah, there you go. Everybody drew the same thing. It's not a coincidence that every culture drew the same thing.
Same exact.
Yeah,
thing.
everybody thought that it was basically a snow globe, and then about 500 years ago, remember back 500 years ago, most people couldn't read and write anyway. They introduced this globe model. Now, part of me thinks that the globe model was introduced by, of course, the authority, the powers that be. But even then, they weren't sure. But they weren't. One thing I've learned about people in power is they don't take chances, which is like, okay, let's roll this thing out. And it's easy. You know, again, you don't have to read or write to understand the globe. You can just show it to people. It's the only thing, by the way, we debunk to children. You know, we put it in the kindergarten classroom. We make a statement first week of class. It's like, we used to think it was flat, but now we think it's a globe. Put it in the, underneath a flag, and 12 years later, your brain is cooked.
Right.
So, but what happens is once the globe was introduced, they still didn't know for sure. And the premise, how we got into it was, again, the Antarctic Treaty, which was you didn't have the technology to figure it out until almost 1960. You're meaning you didn't, until the internal combustion engine was built, until you had pressurized airplanes, you didn't have the tech to figure out what this world was. I mean, you had wooden ships, you had horses, you had trains. That's all you had. Antarctica, it was worthless. So and that's exactly what we did. All the moves that our government was doing back in the 1950s kind of went along with that, which was we just researched. The Navy was out there constantly since the late 1920s, all the way until 1955, 56, Operation Deep Freeze, where I figured out it's like, oh yeah, that's when they pretty much had it locked down, and that's when everything changed. Was around 1960. In 1959, the Van Allen radiation belts were announced up above that said you can't do space travel because it's super deadly. That didn't age well. And then the Antarctic Treaty was put in, which says no corporation can set up shop in Antarctica forever. And if you know anything about treaties, we've broken every treaty. I mean, treaties were meant to be broken. Ask the American Indians. But anyway, go ahead.
Right.
No, so corporation. You just said something else that's interesting. Yeah. Corporations can't
set up shop. Governments can set up shop. The military can set up shop. In fact, there's only 5,000 people at any given time in Antarctica, and they're almost all military or military related. Or military adjacent.
And why do
have you
and Jimbo? What you say, Jimbo?
Have you ever seen the Fitbit videos?
Oh,
what's Fitbit?
Okay. Oh, please, can I do this one?
Let him.
Okay, so this video is on my channel. I could send it to somebody if you want. Which is great. So some years ago, when the Fitbit came out, right, everyone was really pumped about it, because it was this new technology. Oh, look what we can do with the Fitbit. And one of the side things of the Fitbit was it maps where you go, right? So if you take a lap around Central Park, well, it makes this big rectangle around Central Park, and it goes wherever you go. Well, military guys were also wearing these Fitbits. And all of a sudden, people's, what they were doing was they were making it public knowledge. So it's like, look at all your Fitbit friends and see where they went, right? And all of a sudden, you're looking at like places in the desert where there's no roads, and there's these big giant boxes and circles and structures where military guys were walking around with their Fitbits activated. And then, for whatever reason, there were also a couple structures in Antarctica where there was no roads or airports or even anything. And it's like, yeah. And we're I'll send you the link. I'll put it on when you guys are talking, but, of course. And of course, shortly after that, they turned off the Fitbit public tracking for everybody. because it's, again,
So
new technology. It's great.
I don't understand. Jimbo, you speak
Yeah,
Mark.
yeah. Okay,
Dumb it down
so
for me.
right. So what they had was they had a website. If you had a Fitbit, right? One of those Fitbit is kind of like a watch, but you know, you could hey, you did this many steps today and your heart rate is blah blah blah, right?
Right.
So these military guys, I guess for Christmas or whatever, they all got these Fitbits,
Yeah.
right? That they just happen to be wearing. And right, there's a website where
And they had it down in Antarctica. These guys had it in Antarctica.
So somebody had the idea of looking on the Fitbit website at Antarctica, okay? And they looked at Antarctica on their Fitbit map, and it showed that there were thousands or hundreds or maybe thousands of these Fitbits. And the funny thing was, it made the shape of a pyramid in a lot of them, like so that they were out like climbing a pyramid, literally. You know, there were all these. You could tell where they were walking, you know, like if it's tracking you, it's going to go dot, 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 like everywhere you're walking, right? Dot, 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 it tracks it. So eventually that becomes a pattern that you can see. These people are walking here, walking there, walking there. So you can see they're walking in a like in a giant pyramid.
Yeah, I put the link on my channel for anyone that wants to see it, but I'll give you a different angle, which is Fitbit in their marketing genius thought that, we'll show how many people are using Fitbit. Now, of course, if Jimmy was wearing one, it'd be like, I couldn't see where Jimmy was walking. I mean, that's a privacy concern, but it would just take the name off. So here's all the people in the entire world that are using Fitbit, and here's where they're going. And it didn't matter. The dumb part was they didn't filter it. So it's like, okay, here's a Fitbit guy at the grocery store. Oh, here's a Fitbit guy at Area 51. Oh, here's a Fitbit guy down in Antarctica. Oh yeah, all the military bases. And so all of a sudden the government's looking up. It's like, hey, first off, so they had to call all their guys and said, freaking turn off your Fitbits. Do not bring your Fitbits to work until we can solve this. Yeah, wow. Dumb.
Which, first of all,
Jimbo,
does anyone have a concern about that? Oh, I bought this new toy and it's tracking me.
Right.
I'm being tracked, my every move. Okay.
Dude, I realized we started talking about that, Jimbo, when they first came out with OnStar, and even before OnStar, but that was the first one where like, oh my God, if you get in an accident, it's okay. You have OnStar, which most people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. But it's listening. OnStar's listening to you. So they already figured out how to track you in your car and listen to a conversation. And it's always in the name of your safety and to help humanity. It's so brilliant. So here's my question, which I think a lot of people ask. Why?
Why hide it?
Why are they hiding it? Is it for what reason or reasons would they hide this whole news that people more and more are grabbing onto? And it makes a lot of sense when you
there's a couple reasons you would hide it. I've got my two favorites, and by the way, I should probably preface it with,
I mean, I have a couple, but I want to hear yours.
I got to remind the audience that we had nothing to do with the building of this place. That I got to get that out of the way, because people would say, we don't have the technology to build a flat Earth, a Truman Show this big. And it's like, no, of course not. All we're doing is keeping the secret. Right. It's one of the reasons it doesn't come off as sinister compared to every other conspiracy. Every other conspiracy, it's dark and brooding and we should overthrow the government and everybody talks like Batman.
So, but quick question, Mark. So are you, and I'll ask you, Jimmy, the same thing. Is it in your opinion, is it like what is it? What was the show? Truman Show. Where it's not really even the sky and the moon and the things and blah, blah, blah. Is there space and all that exist? Or is it one big ass crazy studio in your head. Is that what you're
Yeah,
trying to say? I don't know if it
absolutely.
works.
I mean, wait, Shakespeare, all the world's a stage. You're living in a giant theater.
Mm.
Good night, everybody. And real
Yeah.
great show. I thought it'd be longer.
Well, you know what?
Go ahead.
Fletchimbo.
I honestly, I'm as far as flat Earth, round Earth, all that, toroid shaped Earth, right? I have to reserve my judgment until I finish my spaceship, and then I can actually go look for myself.
Right.
And I might one of these days. Stranger things have happened. I've actually made tiny little things float on little electrical fields. One of these days, maybe the next bunker, I'll recreate that. Yeah, it's all possible.
Let me
Go
throw
ahead.
the Truman Show thing back at people. And again, I know that it's a little dated now because it's 1998. I think it was one of
It doesn't matter. It's basically the whole world's a stage.
whole world's a stage.
Even the
if
everything, even the sky.
the
all
sky,
of it.
yeah, cue the sun. Such a great line in that movie where it's like, okay, we got to bring the sun up early because we got to find him. Which is everything in the sky. There doesn't have to be space. I know there's lots of space lovers out there. Look, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek and Star Wars and Stargate and everything. It's Battlestar Galactica and so on and so on. But there doesn't have to be space if the average person believes the illusion. So if 99.999% of the people believe the soundstage that they're in, why in the world would there have to be space? Right? So let me go into a couple of reasons though why you would hide it. One would be practical, and one would be religious. Let's just do the religious thing first, get it out of the way, because I know people.
Okay.
I know some of your audience. Half of my audience are strong Christians. So
Yeah.
which is
You have all different.
it'd be an easy way to hide God. Let's put it that way. If you don't want to, if this place is a snow globe, if this place was built, then it was built by someone. And does that absolutely prove there is a divine creator? No, but it gets you way closer to that than you would normally. So keeping people in a globe mentality where you're in this infinite, ridiculously huge, section of space that's moving in all sorts of different directions, you can't begin to comprehend it, then that's an easy way to hide God. You just keep people in space. It's like, science. There's a planet. But the big one for me, I hate to say it, it's not sinister, which is why I think 40% of our audience in when we do conferences stuff is women, because women don't usually get into conspiracy stuff, is that it was just bad timing. Believe it or not. Meaning, if what I said earlier, where if you don't even figure out this world until about 1960, if your best and brightest don't figure it out until 1960, do you tell people then? You got to remember, the only 13 years earlier, that whole Roswell thing happened, and that didn't go well. People were like freaking hands in the air, screaming, panicking over that thing. So it's like, okay, do we tell the people that the world isn't what we think it is? Like, no, you really can't back then, because society had been built already. Everything.
Well, think about War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
That was a huge panic.
Yeah, huge panic, and that was a freaking radio show. Got Orson Welles a nice little career.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was.
So
go ahead.
So along those lines, is it just a bunch of freaks constantly coming up with a new act, and they get off on the act? Like, that's what I'm saying. If because at one time you think, especially now,
right,
where you're starting to see footage that is just so ridiculous. If you're going to look me in the face and trying to convince me that's a real moon landing, I really can't take you seriously. I just can't take you seriously. If you're going to be vicious at the moment, like, and you got nothing to back it but the footage you're showing me, then you're in trouble. Right. So with that said, there has to be a point in time where humanity goes, you know what? It's all no.
Really? I mean,
but is there land? Like, well, I don't know, but is there land that we don't know about, that they're enjoying land? Is it to keep us over here and we're all just experiments? Let's try this toxic waste on them and let's see what works on them. Let's try, like, we're the lab rats of a whole different
Yeah.
insane society that
We could
lives
be a
beyond the
farm.
ice wall? Are we a farm? Is it for money? Is it for slavery? Why at this point? I think there's enough people that will start at least engaging in, like the way we started off the show. Who knows that our cities were burnt
Right.
down?
Now,
I
Right.
didn't. I heard like the Great Fire of, you hear like one city, but you don't hear every city in America.
Yeah.
And
Right.
like what was going on back
Yeah.
then? What was all that?
and
So
go ahead, Jimmy.
what, Jimbo?
You know what? Another thing was, along with the fires back then, there was also, if you look up something called the mud flood, which is also very interesting. The mud flood is basically in almost every city around the country, actually around the world.
Yeah.
You'll see these buildings that it looks like the ground floor is like half a window or half a doorway, and it's like, why would they build a window that goes into the ground? And then a lot of times they'll dig up for excavation and stuff. They'll dig up these buildings and they'll find there's like 3 floors, that go down. What's that?
Underneath, they go down.
Underneath. Yeah, you can, if you just look up mud flood, you'll see all these pictures. It's fascinating. I've seen it in New York, here in Glen Cove.
Well, they were saying that in Egypt. When I visited Egypt, they were still discovering things that were way underground, that were entire cities and roads and palaces. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah. And the guy would tell you, he's like, well, there were always floods. We're next to the Nile River, so they figured out when it's up. And anyway, the fascination of why is this a big secret? Does it destroy all societies as we know it?
Well, think about this. If you're the power,
government's destroyed. You know what I
if
mean?
you're the powers that be,
the Pope.
if you're the authority,
Yeah,
well, that's okay. If you're the authority, there's 3 things you have to look at. I'll rattle them off real fast. Which is, let's say you want to tell the people in 1960, right, that you're living in some sort of building. Academically, you would have to empty out libraries. I mean, not just astrophysics and astronomy, which would be gutted for knows how long.
So it's a pain in the ass. Now we got to change our tech.
That would be bad economically. All the world markets would have to suspend for a long time because you don't know what it means long term. But the big thing, of course,
Right.
you would be giving the main 5 religious houses of the world, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, all simultaneous leverage against science that has been beating them over the head with textbooks for the last 5 centuries. And you're asking them to show restraint. That is a scary proposition, because all of a sudden it's like, okay, so you were wrong about this really important thing. What else were you wrong about? How about like evolution and carbon dating and the Big Bang Theory and dark matter, and just keep, it would never end. Science wouldn't be able to recover. So,
and science makes a lot of money. They make more money than any human being could ever make. It probably runs most governments and countries in the name of, quote, science. Go ahead.
Right. Science makes a huge amount of money, and they get things wrong, and they never apologize. The fish, which I love, never apologize.
I'm still waiting for acid rain. You didn't apologize about it. You said I was going to be frozen in the early 70s. The early 80s, I was going to be frozen. You lied. I want an apology. Yeah. You said if you get you wouldn't get it. You lied to everyone's face.
Yep.
Why? Right. Yet we keep giving millions. Build another wing in this university. We need your money and sponsorship so we can explore. It's such a the guy that's homeless asking for money is no different than these savages that steal your money to lie to your face to say they're doing it for science and technology. Is no different than that guy begging for cash. They're just a scheme.
Yep. Go ahead. Jimmy, did you have something?
No, I was going to say the other thing is like public money, like NASA. like NASA would they would fake it because it's cheaper. You know, they're getting $1 billion for this mission, right? All right, let's just set up a couple of cameras.
$1 billion. That's like, oh my God. Yeah.
Well,
And,
part
you know,
of that,
let's
part
set
of
up a
that
couple of
movie
What?
is Scarlett Johansson is hired to come into NASA to sell the moon. That's what she says. She's like, I'm here to sell the moon. So they're getting the money essentially to produce what they were going to produce.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a book on my coffee table over there called Marketing the Moon, which was somebody had sent it to me, and it is brilliant. It is the entire NASA marketing plan for everything from Gemini through Apollo, and it is brilliant. The moves they made and the money they spent, and they did a 48 state whistle stop tour with all the astronauts and astronauts' wives, and just kept hammering people over and over.
Welcome to the greatest show on earth.
Oh, quoting
Did
a little Alex Michael there from
I have no clue.
yeah, you do. The conspiracy music guru, the singer. Flat Earth Man.
Oh, I love that guy, but no, I didn't even know he did that. We love him. We've had him on the show. We love that guy.
Great. He's great.
No,
Mark,
I
did you?
do that. It's a carnival. Look at ring number 2, where we're gonna launch something to the moon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark, did you happen to see that this week there was an electrical discharge someone caught off the side of the moon?
I saw that. It was before the eclipse, right? And it was a couple days before the eclipse. I did see it, but I couldn't unless I get multiple camera angles. I mean, it was one guy's phone. It's like, I need more. I need more.
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of it.
It was cool.
I didn't know what to make of it.
It was cool, but I couldn't give it that much credibility because I only saw one of them. It's got to be more than one person there.
And then,
sorry,
I agree.
And
I agree.
Then there was that one which it was weird, but I mean, I don't know what the answer is with that giant face next to the moon. Did you see that one?
I saw that too, and he made a couple of those. And again, it was one guy. It was normally
it's the same
it
guy.
was gorgeous.
It's all the same guy.
It was the same guy, probably. It was.
Yeah. All the different ones were the same guy.
It's a wonderful effect. This cool, backlit face behind the moon. That was awesome. Again, if
yeah.
And it got traction. I'll give you that. Hey, real quick to what you were saying, Jim, which was, look, people don't have enough faith in themselves, which is why I did a video called The Code of Credibility, which I said, look, we respond to uniforms, police uniforms, fire uniforms. And if you're wearing a lab coat, and we've done it. Yeah. We've gone on the street. If you're holding like if you try to hand out just flyers on any street corner, you can't do it. Right. You wear a lab coat and hold a clipboard. There's nothing even on the clipboard. People will walk up to you and say, "Hey, really intelligent person that's probably smarter than me, what are you doing here?"
Yeah,
and it's nonstop.
You are my
exactly.
And did you know that was marketing that was actually done on intentionally? And I believe it went back to cigarette commercials in the 1950s, where they're like 4 out of 5 doctors smoke, Raleigh, right? And they're like, well, you got to look like a doctor, so put this lab coat on and these stethoscopes. Like it was a marketing thing.
Can I do a quick 30-second rant on Bill Nye while we're on it? Bill Nye, the science guy. Bill Nye, again, he started out as a part of a comedy troupe in Seattle. And I remember Ross Schaefer was the guy that's like, hey, you're kind of tall and angular and have interesting features. We'll put a lab coat on you, have you do some science stuff, and we'll do some skits. Next thing you know, Disney's looking for their new version of Sesame Street. It's like, yeah, let's grab this guy, right? He's safe. We could totally use him. He gets syndicated. Next thing you know, I'm seeing Bill Nye on different science programs, right? Here's Bill Nye talking about the Mars rover. Here's Bill Nye and his opinion on climate change. Oh, here's Bill Nye. This just happened. He's in front of the doom clock, the doomsday clock. And I would talk to producers. It's like, why do you keep using him? He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and he abandoned it immediately. And they're going, because he looks the part. And they told me, they go,
Right.
actual scientists are super dry and they can't talk well on camera. This guy will do anything we want him to, and everybody believes him because they saw him when they were children on television talking about various crap. And it's just stunning to me. It's like, really?
The guy who played Spock in Star Trek, they
Yeah.
used him
Leonard Nimoy. Yeah.
to push. They pushed him when I was a kid. I loved watching Star Trek, and they pushed him to scare the living daylights out of all of us. And they said it's all over you can watch it. It was a program that said the new ice age was coming, and he was the host, and you believed
was the
him
name of that
because he was
show?
Spock. You're like mysteries.
Oh
or
no, it was
whatever.
In Search of, I think.
In search of.
Yes.
Exactly.
So he's saying the next ice age is coming, and they're showing the snow sideways and people freezing it and they're shoveling snow. The fact that humanity if it's on the screen, it's truth, and no one would lie or put up false images. And it's mind-boggling that people don't believe the boogeyman is on the other side. And they know you're gullible, and they know you're vulnerable, and they know what they're doing and how long they've been doing it, and you're tested and rated and everything else. People, oh my goodness, stop.
And thank you, by the way, for before I got in talking about the eclipse and the fear around the eclipse. I knew it right away. Again, I'm jaded. I went through the whole Nibiru thing back in the day, where people, which is why my next podcast is going to be called, the next show is going to be called Kicking the Can, because now already there's people saying, well, there's delayed effects from the eclipse. There's like eclipse sickness and crap like that. It's like, sure. But the fear beat they kept throwing in, it's like 2017 was not that long ago. Nobody cared. Nobody cared about the 2017 eclipse. This one was apocalyptic. Everyone was saying it. I was looking at websites saying the end of America starts on April 8th. And it's like, what? Are you serious? Yeah.
I always wonder, but I wonder with the whole lying, is it just because it take too much time? Like you said, Mark, like now we got to rewrite tests.
Well,
I'm going to write books, which there is none of that anymore. Or is there land over there? And is it like Avatar where land is floating and we know how to use energy? It is like Star Wars. You have the hovers and they move. Jimbo's talking about things floating. I know. I don't care what anyone says. I know we got that technology.
Sure.
You're not going to convince me. Free energy, free everything. We're just as beings, we're entitled to live off the world. Right. So maybe it is control. Maybe it's a bizarre slavery.
Well,
I don't know. But I really want to go on the other side of Antarctica. Why can't we go past Antarctica? Right. Nobody ever explains that. And to me, that should be the first major red flag if you don't believe or don't even want to look into flat Earth. Right. Why are you not allowed to go to Antarctica? It makes no sense. And why can't you go past it? What is the big deal? What is the big deal?
To your first question, I probably should have brought this up earlier, which is you can't be the greatest authority if you're not. Meaning, if all of a sudden you admit that we didn't build this place, you as a government, government right now is the highest level of authority that we have. You all of a sudden immediately lose credibility. You're people will start questioning you and ask the questions that you were asking, which is, it opens up the door to too many questions. First off, it'd be like, yeah, so we'd really like to talk to the people that built this place, and we think you're keeping secrets, and is there more land over there? And we need to know that too. It would be way tougher to keep everybody corralled if all of a sudden you admit
it'd be chaos.
It would be chaos. Potentially.
Chaos.
Well, I was going to say, it just makes, in very simple terms, it just makes the government not the top dog. Like right now, they're like, no, we're the top dog on the planet. We're the top dog. But then if we find out that, somebody else bigger than you built this place, or there are higher intelligences You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? All of a sudden, they're not top dog.
It's why the Air Force has never come out and said, really talked about UFOs at all, because you can't rule the skies if you don't rule the skies. You can't come out and say, oh yeah, there's some things flying around up there that could just beat the freaking brakes off of our stuff. You can never ever admit that, because that says you have some sort of vulnerability. So they'll tease every once in a while. It's like, oh, look, here's a grainy UFO over here, and here's something out of focus over here. But they don't want to talk about it. And also, go ahead.
No, the only concern, well, not the only concern, but one of the concerns I have with the whole concept of whether the Earth is flat or not is that, well, one time I had heard that it was one specific military guy that came up with the idea of, let's call it a flat Earth, and the reason was, we got to keep these guys off balance, meaning us, the people. Let's have them arguing about everything other than the voting machines that we all still have in place that stole the last election, that are probably going to steal this election if we're not paying attention to it, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Keep them arguing about anything other than...
That's a power thing. That's a control. That's power and control. Are the demons? I call them demons, and they're in our government. Yeah. They're in every government.
If
even the military guys that contacted you, maybe it's all right, we got to push this agenda. We don't know.
Yeah, there is.
You know what I'm saying?
What you're talking about is the whole the disinformation argument, which is, do you create flat Earth as part of a government program? The idea, and introduce it into social media in 2015. However, and I get where, I understand why some people look, the truther community is suspicious as a rule. I still have people like, I know that you've talked to Eddie Bravo a few times. Eddie Bravo still to this day thinks I am a government agent for whatever reason, because it was started like 9 years ago. I cannot get him off that. Thank God he's friends with other people in our community. But he'll never talk to me. But like, I will go to, for example, I'll go to conferences every once in a while, and one of my guys made me like a CIA logo shirt, just a little logo on the shirt, right? I'm wearing it in broad daylight, and there's people looking at me sideways the entire conference. It's like, oh yeah, that guy. It's like, come on. But as far as go ahead.
I feel like there's so many people now, and I think there's enough people all over the world that are questioning so many things. Am I out of line, Jimbo, when I say I think a lot of us are ready for, like, hey man, everyone sit down.
I know where he's going.
We got to lay some stuff down for you. This is not going to be easy. It's going to take a long process to digest, but it's just time. A lot of us have been living a lie. A lot of us are protecting many lies. There's too many lies to talk about. Too many lies have been lost. But you know what? It's time for us as humanity, as the souls that we are, the spirits that go through every living being, tree, plant, and us, an animal, in earth. It's time for us to understand how we're truly connected and what's going down.
There you go.
And what has gone down for a long time. So sit down, and we're going to keep, there's enough food for everybody. I don't want to ever lie, but we're going to shut things down. We already set up at every place. We got food, we got water. The restaurants are staying open. We're the whole different world going to go on right now.
Jimmy,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, Jimmy, before you get in, because I want to jump off that for just a second, which is I'm an optimist at heart. And yes, which is, I think that flat Earth, was it introduced artificially? But it was allowed to grow organically, meaning at the very least, they didn't stop us. And I think part of it is because flat Earth cracks your head open like a walnut and makes you super open-minded, in some cases, probably too much, but that's a whole nother story. Because of that, I think I think it was allowed to get out there in so many places now because something bigger is coming down the pipe. Like what Jim was saying, some big reveal. It's like, okay, what's bigger than flat Earth? I don't know. The existence of other civilizations, other lands, some divine power. Take your pick. But flat Earth is a gateway to something bigger and better, in my opinion. But again, I'm being an optimist when I say that.
What if that ice wall?
It's the marijuana of
there you go.
Gateway.
People say that's the gateway to other. Is it?
No, but maybe I just thought of this just a second while you were talking, Mark. What if this ice wall is melting? So there's going to be free traffic.
Ooh.
Boats can just go wherever, and maybe there is land on the other side of the ice that now you can just row your boat.
Sure.
Holy shit!
Or all of a sudden, another civilization has access to us, and maybe they don't have the rules that we do.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What if that goes down? Like, they got a whole different thing going on there. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say, Jim, you asked if people are ready for the big sit down.
I think
we 100% are. I don't think we were 4 years ago.
No way.
We weren't 4 years ago. But how amazing is that? Talk about warp speed, Project Warp Speed. Like we are now ready. I really feel like we're all ready. There's enough of us out there.
There's enough of us that are ready and that can take care of.
And like you said, would people be freaked out if like things shut down? No, we went through COVID. We shut the world down. We were all fine. So if they said, listen, we gotta have a standstill here for a couple of days, and we're gonna talk about what the deal is
and how to move forward in peace and prosperity. Because if something like that went down and all it is fear mongering, then we know it's like a whole big hoodwinkle thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's got to be, hey, this is the way life's got to be from this moment. We messed up. Somebody messed up. We're not going to blame them. We're not going to start taking people out. We're not going to point at one particular group of people. But there is a time when all beings, not just humans, all beings, we had access to water and plants and air and space. And it may not have been perfect, but somebody came along, took it, bought it, said how much it's worth, controlled it, created establishments. They call it colonizing, which is really burning cities to the ground, taking children. God knows what you do to them. And you started this enslavement society where we need banks and we need to work for a piece of paper that represents your entire existence of life, which is not, we're the only beings that live like this.
Yeah.
And it is so thoughtless. You think you're so thoughtful. We're beyond thoughtless.
Yeah.
But I think enough people now are ready for just like, can you just tell us what, like, are we bringing it to the streets? Are we, it's like, what, just get to it. Can we just get to it? Do we have to survive on our own? You know what I mean? Stop now. Stop. That's what I hope goes.
I try to call it sometimes bad reset, good reset, which is, I hope for the good reset, what you're talking about, the big reveal, the big sit down, where they level people. But I also think that the equation is always trying to balance itself. And I think there's nefarious types out there, as you have talked about in different things, that want the other reset. The bad. Yeah, exactly. The horse. Yeah. And
I shall never give up control. You know how much money I make on the Super Bowl in sports? That's just a part of my money. We're not even talking about NASA and how many people I get, quote, funding everything I want to research. They love that word, research.
By the way, thank you for bringing up the Super Bowl. I called that one immediately. The second, I don't want to go off on a different tangent because it's minor, but the second time I saw her in that freaking skybox, I go, oh my God, the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I go, that is.
So did I. Who didn't see that coming?
Should have placed the bet.
She's
dating the guy.
Oh, okay. Oh, and he's pushing for that big pharma company. Let me guess, she's gonna push for the.
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
You have to be Sub-Zero to not see that.
yeah, that was so blatantly telegraphed. Oh my God, it was frustrating.
It was comical.
Awful. Freaking tub.
It was frustrating. Still is frustrating. People going, I think it's amazing that she's dating the big family.
Really? Yeah, the ex cheerleader and the jock. Yeah, that was a wasted opportunity. And I said that weeks beforehand. I go, if you really want to go all out, you have him at the podium, frickin' give her the ring right then and there. But they weren't going to commit to that because it's not real. It's not real. Not actually happening. In fact, there was a story that came out just recently where he goes, I don't know how I got her. It's like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Now for the record, my personal belief is that it's not built. That's just me. It's not built for whatever, meaning man-made built.
What, this place?
Earth.
Yeah,
no.
Earth, firmament.
We're not that good.
In my head. Well, no, and that's why I was confused earlier. I'm like, built. I'm thinking man.
Oh, no.
I'm thinking human being.
No,
okay.
no.
All right. As long as we're on the same page. That's then all right, then we're all good.
There
we're
is
what, Jimbo?
There are stories or some people think that the moon is an artificial satellite. I don't know if you ever heard that, but if you look that up,
I heard that.
There's stories. There was one story where supposedly they shot some probe at the moon, and when it hit the moon, the thing rang like a bell, and it rang for like an hour, right? That they could tell. Anyway, so which would suggest that it's hollow, right? And the other thing is, and this is the strange part, is that there's always the same face. Like, why is it the exact same face? Always,
no matter where you are, you can see the face.
It never changes, not even a quarter degree in a century. I'm not going to say that it was lazily done because it's very nice and decorated. Oh, that, and of course the craters. I don't know if you guys ever thought of that. The craters are circles because every impact came in at a 90-degree angle, and it's like nothing's. It should look like a 10-year-old shot at it with a BB gun. And it doesn't. It looks like it was perfectly decorated. It's like, we're going to big circle here and big circle. But yeah.
Interesting.
Well,
and then there's and then
that, and of course what we just witnessed, which was coincidentally, it is 400 times more narrow, but 400 times closer than the sun, which is why it fits exactly in front of the sun. And it's like, okay, that is a bit of a coincidence there, because no other planet can claim that. By the way, and it's way oversized.
How does it even get that close? Right.
Yeah. It's just silly.
Anyway.
Fascinating. Fun stuff.
My head needs to rest. Because
this was fun.
This was a lot of fun. And I want to thank you, Mark Sargent. Anything you have your podcast, where can people find you?
I'm not even gonna. I'm only gonna advertise one thing because I promised him I would. We have a wonderful Flat Earth app out there called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, which I didn't build. Some of our other people did. It's wonderful. If you want to find my stuff, just type in any search engine, type in Flat Earth Mark, and you will eventually find the rabbit hole. But there's so many content creators out there. Don't just look at my stuff. Oh, and sorry, last thing. Do your own research. Forget about what I just said over the last hour and change. Do your own research. Figure it out for yourself. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to put the idea in your head, kind of like a flat earth drug deal. It's like, hey, man. You want to get into something? Check out this flat Earth. Don't do too much. Don't do too much. Right? I don't.
A little bit of time.
I don't give this to just anybody. You're my special customer.
Well said, man. Mark, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man. We'll see you
All right.
soon. Mark Sargent.
great.
Everyone. See now, and again, I don't care what people say. I really don't care what people say, because even like when we started the show, did you know that almost all of our cities were burnt down? The Great Fire. Just text in, Google the Great Fire of, and put in a city. And what's mind-boggling is that video I watched, and that guy's a flat Earth guy, and he goes through government. I gotta find his damn name. I'll send it to Mike, but maybe we should look into this guy. I would love to talk to him, because that's some serious. Yeah, listen to this.
Was destroyed by fire between 1850 and the early 1900s. Every city in America was torched. So we don't really know what was here anymore. They left a few museums or whatever you want to call them. Look at whoever's watching, look at your big city, wherever you are. Atlanta, New York, Chicago, doesn't matter where. Type in the Great Fire of, and then type in your city. You're going to see that at some point between 1850 and 1930, your city was completely devoured. That was in this country.
You know what? When did we go bank? When did America become the corporation, Jimbo? Do you know that?
That I believe it was in the 1800s. Yeah. Late 1800s.
Another interesting part of history that I'm sure a lot of people have no clue about. Interesting. Anyway, it's a lot of 1871, right when a lot of these fires were all the cities of America going down. You know, we won the war. Did we? Paying a lot. It was
the bill was passed after. The act was passed after the Civil War.
There's a lot of things that we think we know that we have no clue about. Jimbo, thanks for hanging out, bro.
That was fun.
It was such a good time. We'll catch up. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. No, just plug. Check me out on The World According to Shaka
on Rumble,
at Rumble and at Telegram, and that's it. Telegram, I just post most of my stuff there. Once in a while, I'll post a video on Rumble.
Awesome.
Yeah,
you the man. Have a good one, Jimbo. We'll talk soon.
All right, that was fun. All right, talk to you later.
That was fun. So back to you. There's so many things that you don't know, and you're basing everything you know on the words that convince you: education, doctors, scientists, government, whatever it is. You have all the information and all the power inside you just to think and look at things common sense wise. Common sense. Why are we not allowed to go to Antarctica? Why is there just military there? Why? Why is there an ice wall? What's beyond the ice wall? They're just, you can poo-poo everything all you want because you're holding on to a teddy bear, and it may rattle your existence, but it shouldn't. It should actually bring your existence to a whole new awareness level and a whole new discovery. Thanks for checking out The Bunker. Do all your research. Do it all yourself. It's all just entertainment, right? It's just entertainment, YouTube. Everything I said was just entertainment. No facts, nothing like that. You guys go check it out. But don't write something off just because you don't even want to explore the thought. Then that's on you, and you're not allowed to lash out. See you next week on the Bruniverse.
Take a look around and what do you see? London down tonight, we're making history.
Hey, this is Jim Bruer, and I got my own Patreon page, and hopefully you'll check it out. Live comedy concert streamed
once a month. Early access to the Bruniverse podcast every single week, and have bonus footage and bonus segments. I promise you I'm not going to let you down. Go check out my official Jim Brewer Patreon page, and I'll see you there.